We got the dog back to where the shot was, where the blood was. I said that's the trail he went down, and we're getting the dog working. We're going down the trail a little bit. We find some blood on the trail. We find a pool of blood, probably 60 yards from the shot. And then the trail, it was kind of a funnel around this little swale. So we kind of knew which direction it was going. We kept going. And then we got to a spot, probably 100 yards or so, that we had what we thought was a bed, right?
Yep, that was his first bed, and that, truthfully, because of how you handled the shot, I expected to find him pretty close to right there. And that bed, if you remember, that smelled like a rutted buck laid there for 24, 25 hours.
It did smell. We found, what, 2 drops of blood in that bed?
1 or 2. It was very minimal. Way less than what I even expected. I can't confirm, obviously, how long he laid there, but it smelled like he was there all night.
We successfully did not jump him out of that bed that we know of, or I did the day before. After a while, Dylan and I, we're getting a little discouraged going, you know, Zerk's tracking around and jumping deer, and there's no more blood, and there's scent's not really doing anything. We get him back on the bed, we try again, and we're probably thinking about wrapping. And I was like, well, let's at least go back and check that spot where I heard the crashing.
You might have been considering wrapping, but I wasn't.
I wasn't seeing anything that made me think to keep going, from the dog, from you, from me, from anybody, to be completely honest. And I was like, Dylan, you want to walk back the way we came, or should we go the long way around here through this area? And you picked the long way. And right when we were walking down that 2-track, I looked down and found a pile of blood on the 2-track.
At that point, Zerk had already triggered ahead of us.
And at that point, we got on this trail, found the blood. It looked like there was more blood ahead of him, or ahead of that spot. So we started going down this trail, and you put Zerk on a leash at this point. And that dog acted totally different.
Yep, that was a lesson learned on that one.
When that happened, he got on that trail and he drug you straight down that trail.
Yep.
Straight out into the swamp. You're yelling back to me, I got blood, I got blood. I'm like, I'm coming. We're an hour and a half in and the game totally flips. Once we had that blood and that new trail, it was on. And we took it, man. We took it out to the middle of this swamp against some small, I don't know if it was willow brush or it wasn't red osier, and we found a bed with blood in it for the first time. And I think we're 350, 400 yards into it at this point.
I let him go. He was still clipped into his lead, but I let him go because he just simply was pulling me over. He was on hot, very fresh scent. Not that we knew it at the time, but he was pulling hard, and I just, mainly so I didn't get pulled over and get absolutely drenched, even though it happened in the end. You know, I let him go and let him work, and I just kept calling him back as needed. And we wound up finding, what was it, 4 or 5 beds, I think, Jared?
Yeah, somewhere right there. 4, 5, 6. That was the first main one, and then you let him go, and then we found a bunch more up by that pond. He tracked us to another island. We spent a half hour to 45 minutes on this other island because the dog was working all around this island. You know, Dylan's sweating his ass off in the marsh, chasing Zerk around. You know, I'm out there behind him 3 hours. Yeah, probably 2 hours in at this point, 2.5. And eventually we lost blood at that last island I mentioned where the dog worked for another 45 minutes, and you were waiting for your buddy to call you back. We lost blood, and we just started following the dog. The dog went up by the pond. Our shortest way out of there is kind of the direction we were headed versus backtracking. And as we're walking on the south side of the creek, we're heading west, and Zerk was on the north side of the creek. We look over, and I go, is he working? You go, oh, he's working.
From that last spot where we lost blood, I let him go and just let him work. And I was following him up to that creek, and I'm like, there's no way I'm crossing this. So I called you up, and that's when we were trying to figure out how to get over there in case he took off to go track. You know, and the whole time he's trying to get across the creek, and he finally did. And I'll let you go from there.
Well, yeah, because we were trying to find a way to get across too, because if he's still working the scent, we got to follow him. And then we look over, and all we see is his ass in the air, and he's just yanking, like head down, ass in the air, just yanking, like he's trying to pull something out of the ground almost. And you were like, dude, I think he's got something. And I was just like, no way. This, you know, we're 3 hours in at this point, 720 yards or whatever it was, and you had like 0.6 miles on your deal. I'm like, no way. I hope you're right, but no way. And when we get up there a little further, we can't see. He's behind this big, like root base from a tree where a tree was growing, and the buck was laying behind it in the mud. And sure enough, I got up to that creek, jumped across, threw Dylan my bow and my phone, jumped across, got soaked. I look up, and I could just see this main beam. Like every time the dog would yank, this main beam would kind of move 5 foot up in front of him. I'm like, no shit.